Shalom, truth seekers. So, where are we? Computer doesn't freeze. I shall share with you the results of my sundial and luminary observations today. So, it wasn't what I expected. And maybe, yeah, I'm just not sure, but I think I'm going to have to keep. At this point, I think I'm done collecting data for this seasonal transition. I do think the transition has occurred, but it's a question of exactly when, perhaps either today or yesterday. And I'm going to show you what my data was showing for today, and then we'll talk about like what everyone else was seeing. So I was able to do the straight line method today for whatever that's worth, and if you're familiar with my channel, you know I have a concern about the straight line method. I would love if it works, but I just really want to test it out and find peace of mind about it, and I'd like to see someone near the equator do the straight line method, and if they see this quote-unquote straight line on the same day that other people do, regardless of their latitude, then I would say that's probably a pretty good accurate method. Anyway, so yeah, it wasn't what I expected to see today. I wasn't able to do the straight line yesterday. It's really a miracle that I was able to do any of this. It kind of all came together at the last minute. We sold our house recently, and we still kind of sort of live in the area, and my sundial mount and board were still there at the old place, and the neighbors were gracious enough to let me come and snap a few pictures and collect a few data points, so thank you to them for that. But so anyway, these are the tools I have used in past years, and so this is my sundial board with a 3-inch nail sticking out. So this was the data from today, and you can see 3:20. I started at 10:40 because I live on, this house is on the side of a mountain, so you only get sunshine starting at like 10:40. But then I was able to collect data all the way to 6:30, which is the interesting thing to note about that is, I mean, sometimes, depending on your situation, you might actually be able to get some really early points in the morning and the late evening if you're not on the side of a mountain like me, but because the leaves are off the tree in the spring season, I guess that only happens if you're north of the equator, but in the fall for me that's been an issue to get these later points in the evening too. I usually have to stop somewhere around 6 p.m. because the leaves on the tree end up blocking the sun, but when the leaves are off the trees I get even more. And you know, it really I almost made a mistake this year. Like, if I say to people, I mean, what I've noticed, if you're looking for this quote-unquote straight line, it seems most effective to get it if you get a point as early as you can in the morning and as late as you can in the evening, and if you're able to do that, then you should get one more point somewhere around solar noon, which is I think around like 1:30ish. But the mistake I made, and I'll say a little correction if anyone ever tries this in the future, if you live on the side of a mountain or something where you've got an obstruction and you're only collecting data like a few hours into the morning, or you're missing it in the evening, then what I said earlier isn't quite true. You're gonna want to make sure you get a data point as late and as early in the morning as you can, but if you missed a good chunk in the morning, then you're going to want to try and get a point in the middle here, not necessarily at solar noon. Like, I thought I messed that up this year. I thought I messed that up this year because I forgot that you missed so many hours in the morning at this location, and so, you know, this point is so close to this point. If it was curving, it'd just be hard to see because the max movement in the curve would occur somewhere here at the middle. So just be aware of that if you're ever trying to collect data and you're in that kind of situation. But so when I collected my point here, I was able to go on and collect a lot more than I thought I would in the evening due to the leaves being off the trees. And I could visually see, without even plotting this line, I could tell that the shadow of this nail was falling back this way. And it really hooks a lot in the evening. Like, most of the day, the movement is slow and it's mostly straight, but in the evenings and the mornings it will speed up and hook substantially. So that's why it's really important when you're trying this method to try and get data points as early in the morning and as late in the evening as possible. And if you happen to not be able to get very late, just make sure that, or very early, just make sure whatever the earliest and the latest that you were able to collect a point right in the middle somewhere. But so I think, for whatever it's worth, this is what my data was showing me, that it's not a straight line on the 20th, which was surprising. I really expected to see the straight line on the 20th, and what this is telling me, this data is dipping below the straight line, and what that means is this is a picture from 2017 in the summer when I collected on this same board just to test out around the longest day of the year, the so-called summer solstice. And you can see when the sun is high in the sky, what you end up getting a smiley face this time of year. And in the winter time, it ends up being down here, and it's a frowny face. These dots make like an upside down arc. And then somewhere in the middle is this straight line. But, so the thing is, this smiley face is what happens in the summer from my sundial. It might be different depending on what orientation your sundial is. But for mine, I get a smiley face in the summer and a frowny face in the winter. So what that means is these points are dipping below the line for me, and it's a smiley face. That means it's already progressing into the pattern you would see in spring and summer. So this tells me that if all went well with this test, and there's nothing funky about this test based on your latitude, and you get different results at the equator or another latitude, this seems to be saying that the season of spring began. It's all like this would be like the first day in theory, if it wasn't the second day, but it definitely seems to be saying that the seasonal transition has occurred. Which doesn't, it's hard to say, I don't know. So that, I'm going to need a few days. I'm going to be waiting for other people's data to come in. There's still a couple other truth seekers that I know, I think, that were trying to collect data, so I'd like to see what they got so I can compare the witnesses. But let's see, so I was able to snap some more pictures of the sun from my mount today, and that's what the long arrows are pointing at, the data points from today, and then you can compare that to where the sun was in years past, 1 year ago. So upon closer observation, like zooming in on this data, it sure, like I thought that so here's the 19th yesterday where the sun was, and then this one down here is, oh, you can't see it, or maybe you can. Oh wait, no, there it is, the 2000, so a year ago, this is actually pointing at this brighter, see how it's the bright green that follows this up? That was what this picture was, and it's this big fuzzy one. And I discovered this year, they get nice and sharp, like I had perfect sunlight this year, and I used like a full solar filter, and I was able to get this nice, nice circle here. This one is kind of a bigger fuzzy disc because I think I had clouds and I was using different levels of filters. So that, all that to say, when I'm looking at it closer now, this was the 19th last year, and this was the 19th this year, and this was the 20th last year. So what I'm seeing, and this is the 20th this year, and this is the 20th this year. So what I'm seeing is it looks like the 20th is farther than it was last year. This one, it's higher than this. And then when I took a second look, I realized the one from the 19th is actually pretty close to where the sun was on the 20th. So it's interesting because with this method I'm trying to confirm when the sun returned to like the exact position in the heavens, and I'm trying to compare it to the celestial equator because that's like the middle line of heaven. But this is still a work in progress. I can't hang my hat on this because there's still things that I need to like try and work the bugs out of. But, so, I mean, this definitely, potentially seems to be also saying, like, we are beyond. I think the first day of spring last year, I had questions about it last year, but I ended up going with the first day of spring being the 21st, because I think that's what, I have a long note here explaining how I came to that conclusion, but I just had to go off of the majority of other witnesses because I just wasn't sure about my methods that year. I got rained out with the straight line method, and I was only just testing out this other method of taking pictures of the sun and comparing it to the celestial equator. But anyway, so 321, that would mean that 320 was the last day of the season of winter, the sign day, which, so if the 20 was the last day of winter last year, and today the 20 is past that, and remember this disk, this brighter one is like bigger, it's not as sharp as this one. The one from the 19th looks like it's almost right on course with what it was last year for the 20th. So I don't know. So if the season ended last year on the 20th, and now the sun has returned to that position, then it seems like the season really should have ended somewhere between the 19th and the 20th this year. So yeah, I'm really gonna need to compare to other people. Let's look to see what some other people were coming up with this year. So, I asked Google. Google is saying the first day of spring is on 320, but like I've mentioned in the past, you gotta be careful about that because I think Google sometimes what we would call the sign day or the end of the season or the equinox, like Google calls that the end of the season instead of the beginning of the season. It's kind of a terminology thing. So just I don't know. I wouldn't hang my hat on that. But let's see. Stellarium was interesting. Nick in Vanderlyn in Jerusalem was coming up with the first day being on the 21st. He was using Stellarium and timeanddate.com, I think. This data actually comes from data study that I did a few years ago, also from Stellarium, but it's interesting. That's where this came from. So it's interesting to see two different ways are kind of, where am I? Pointing to the 21st, this one and this one. So then we had a couple brothers, one in Australia claimed to have seen the straight line today on the 20th, and then a brother in California claims to have with his sundial. He had one of those sundials that kind of has a stick pointing directly at the sun, and he had to measure his latitude and ground angle stuff. But I mean, and the shadow disappears with that sundial, and so he thought the shadow disappeared on the 20th, which would be today, I guess. So again, that would mean the first day is the first day of the new season is tomorrow, the 21st. I am unsure. I'm going to wait for other witnesses. I'd like to see if Remnant of Light has collected any data this year. They're usually pretty good. There's another brother in Australia. I'd like to see what he gets. And Juan Carlos was added again this year, so he's got a video. I've got links out here. If you want access to this document, I can make that available. There's a public folder that this can be shared on that you can get to if you need it. But so I mean, check out his channel, Light to the Nations. I've got links here, but he was looking back on like the 17th. He was out with his sundials looking, and I thought he said it was his intention to keep watching for the duration of this week, but I haven't seen anything since those first two videos. So I'm kind of sitting on the edge of my seat to see what he comes up with and what maybe a couple other people come up with. Oh, and there's one more woman in Australia that I heard from. She's also collecting data. So, and there might be a few others coming. So I'm just gonna wait and see what they get. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird. It seems like the consensus is saying the last day of the season was today, the 20th, and the first day of the new season will be the 21st. But this straight line pattern really doesn't seem to confirm that for me. And honestly, my brain is kind of fried at the moment. I'm not even sure what to make of this, but the sun definitely seems to be more north of where it was last year when we were, I guess I was thinking the year began. And this one's even farther. So I don't know. Stay tuned. More. The next video I put out will probably be a summary of like what I think based off of when I see what all the other witnesses have to say. But I guess that's it for now. If you have collected any data, let me know. Yeah. What did I want to do? Oh no. So, I thought, no, I guess there are a couple Facebook groups. I can't even, maybe I can find them real quick. If the computer's not frozen. I created these different groups to try and collect, oh gosh, I'm really not even good at Facebook. I'm just going to try and show you the different groups that are out there if you're interested in joining them. I guess starting here, this is like a group meant to kind of just come together and discuss in loving iron sharpening iron. Let's discuss the Creator's times, all the different perspectives. Put your perspective to the test. This is a study group focused on trying to confirm an accurate and consistent translation for the luminary section of Enoch. This is Bible translation project in general. This group is specifically for star observations, specifically for moon observations, specifically for sun observations. So I try to collect for these seasonal transitions. I try to collect everyone's data that I've heard from, and like there are a few people I've heard from. Here's the guy whose shadow disappeared today, and there I have it twice. Wonder how that happened. Here's another guy with a straight line method, and let's see. Oh, there's me. There's Juan. There's Nick. So yeah, please feel free to join these groups and just share your information with these groups. And I guess that's it for now. Stay tuned. I will hopefully hear from other people and try to share some final thoughts on what I think all this means. Because and I guess I'll mention one more thing. Like, the most accurate seasonal transition that I ever confirmed, I think, was a winter solstice back in 2019. Check my YouTube channel for videos on that. But I was using a very tall sundial, and I mean, I wasn't splitting hairs. I could see the sun hit an extreme position and return, and it was like a foot of difference every day. So again, I wasn't splitting hairs. It was very clear the sun started to return. And so it was approximately this timestamp. So I've been using this timestamp kind of as a comparison basis of comparison for other holy days, kind of in confirmation with the other signs I'm seeing at the times. But I realized that I might have made an adjustment to this that might not have been what I should have done, but kind of explain it here a little bit. In my location in West Virginia, I recorded my mark at like 9:15 in the morning when I saw the extreme position, and then sometime in the night, like 16 hours later, it must have hit like an extreme and then started to return or something. And so what I tried to do was this 1:15 time, you can see I added 6 plus 24 based off of the amount of movement that I thought I was seeing, to try and figure out exactly where that extreme position was hit, which makes me curious. Where does Stellarium say it would have hit in 2019? Stellarium says it would have hit over here. Is that 16 hours away from here? It is if you go this way. Oh, interesting. I don't think I ever saw it. So if I saw that here in West Virginia at 9:15, and then I crunched numbers and I thought it happened 16 hours later, yeah, that might be about right, actually. Interesting. Okay, so yeah, if it was hit there. Remember, the Creator's International Date line shifts. It's not this crazy wiggly line here. Like, for whatever reason, those timepieces are moving at a speed he has perfect control over, and it seems like it is 365.24 days at the moment, and I think that's an intelligent design. I go into that more in other videos I put out recently. Equinox 364 days explained. Luminary time is not the same as clock time, but so it's always shifting. A verse in Daniel says he changes the times, and I think it's a beautiful design. It keeps people from trying to take his time and put it in a box or slap it to a calendar grid and just run with the calendar. Like, you have to be paying attention because it changes every year. The signs are different every year, and but anyway, and it's not that complicated. Simply, time is where you are. So when you see the signs, time begins. But anyway, so 2019. So that looks kind of accurate, but what I should have done, I don't think I should have added that 16 plus 24 and then started, like when I use that as a reference to check the other holy days, I think I should have left it with what I saw when the sign actually occurred, and then just start adding to that, even though it wasn't the extreme. Like, maybe the extreme was hit somewhere else on Earth, like this is showing that I saw the extreme living here, but the extreme might not have happened until it actually hit somewhere around here, and I didn't see that. But nonetheless, it occurred there. But for me, it occurred here. So I mean, my next seasonal transition would be approximately 91 days, plus a little extra, a lot to go into that, but like the Enoch talks about the luminaries rendering extra service on the seasonal days, and there's something to consider there. But more or less, from my location, I should have added 91 days and a little change, but not from this location. And that's not what I don't think I did that. So I don't know what might have been. I can't remember what was going on there. But anyway, for this upcoming transition, I'm using that as a reference again. And it was kind of tricky because there was a leap year, I guess a Gregorian leap year in 2020. So I had to subtract that off, because when you're doing these dates in Excel, it just throws in that extra leap day. So you'll see maybe I subtracted it off the year previously, this one. Yeah, so there you can see I'm minusing 1 day for the leap year. But in addition, I took off that 16.24 Okay, and this is what I'm coming up with. So based off of that winter solstice that I confirmed back in 2019, I'm just adding equal years and equal seasons, kind of based off of the time that we see the solar cycle progressing, and I'm coming up with the season should have ended approximately on the night of the 19th, which would, in theory, mean that the sunrise of the 20th would have been the first day of spring, which seems to be in agreement with what I saw. I'm going to have to keep thinking about this, but it seems to be in agreement with what I saw with the sundial. Like, this curve is already happening, it seems, on the 20th. So, and that's the spring and summer curve. So, I don't know. Nothing's perfect. I don't even know if I trust this method. So many other people are seeing it a different way this year. One of the witnesses, they're all seeing it this way. So that's why I'd like to hopefully hear from a few more witnesses, see what they're doing, if there's a split. And I do expect there to be a split somewhere. Like, as I've mentioned in other videos, like, you gotta realize there are always like two Gregorian dates running at the same time, and depending on which side of that international date line you live on, like, you might end up seeing the quote-unquote sign day on a different date, even though they're like side by side. It's just a question of where time begins. So I don't know. Stay tuned. It's really close this year. I'm definitely feeling like, after everything I've collected and seen what other people have collected, it definitely seems like the year is going to begin on either the 20th or the 21st. I've narrowed it down to those 2 days, I think. So based off of, maybe I'll get a good night of sleep and I'll be able to think about this a little more, and maybe other witnesses will come and be able to make a final decision about this soon. So stay tuned. Alright, and if you have any questions or anything you'd like to share, please do so in the comments, or you can email me at avoiceoftruthandlove@gmail.com. Alright, well, shalom, and may Abba bless as you continually seek his truth in love with a pure heart.